Lockdown China is exploding. We're going to see precisely what's behind the most massive uprising against the CCP since Tiananmen Square. We're going to see the ridiculous hypocrisy of the modern left in the process. And make sure to stick with me to the very end of this video when I'll reveal where China is going from here. You are not going to want to miss this. Over the weekend, the single largest anti-government protests in 30 years have ignited across the nation of China, pushing the CCP possibly to the brink. Here's what happened in just the last week that created the perfect storm for mass demonstrations. First and foremost, COVID is back in China, and it's back with a vengeance. Over the last month, China's daily COVID case began hitting an all-time high. Things have actually become so bad over there. Officials in Beijing are actually once again reporting deaths, the first deaths from COVID in more than 6 months. As a result, lockdowns didn't just return to China over the last several weeks. The lockdowns now are some of the most strict and severe yet seen. Secondly, about 4 days ago, workers at China's largest iPhone assembly factory began confronting and clashing with police. Video began to emerge from the Foxconn plant in the city of Zhengzhou, where protesters could be seen clashing with law enforcement officers, many in hazmat suits. The site has been locked down over the last month because of a COVID outbreak, and as a result, over 100,000 workers were recruited over the last few weeks to replace the previous workers that were escaping from that location. But now, these same workers began protesting sanitation conditions that we can all see brought them to the absolute breaking point. Thirdly, on Thursday, our day of Thanksgiving, a horrific deadly fire broke out at the high-rise apartment building in the city of Urumqi, the capital city of Xinjiang province. What added to the horror in this unspeakable event is that, according to a number of people, the building was in full lockdown. And so the residents were locked inside and unable to escape. And as a result, 10 people reportedly died, having been burned alive. Fourthly, the World Cup. Now, yes, I think we're all going to have a new appreciation for soccer in all of this, or football for our European audience. The South China Morning Post is reporting that the World Cup that's currently going on in Qatar has had a major impact in this as well. An untold number of Chinese are watching images of maskless crowds with competitors from all over the world, again, completely maskless, and they're wondering, what the hell is going on here in China? The confusion levels going through the roof throughout mainland China as they see huge crowds shouting, cheering, jumping arm in arm all over the world, all without masks. And this, together with the online outrage over the Urumqi apartment fire, spread a comparable outrage via social media all across the entire nation. And so, as of this weekend, protests against the CCP's draconian COVID controls broke out and spread across cities and college campuses all throughout China, with protesters calling for President Xi's resignation. It is without question the single largest national demonstration against the CCP since the 1989 Tiananmen Square protests, and may in fact already be dwarfing those protests in terms of size. It's now being called the White Paper Revolution. Protesters can be seen holding up blank sheets of paper as a symbol of resistance. It's absolutely fascinating. The CCP has basically banned all protest slogans, so holding up the blank pieces of paper both complies with the ban as well as creates a sense of solidarity among the protesters. So it's rather genius. They can't be arrested since they're not breaking any laws, and yet the blank papers effectively symbolize the draconian crackdowns by the CCP against any and all dissent. In Beijing, as of the making of this video, protesters are actually within earshot of Tiananmen Square, and perhaps the most fitting example of collective rage, protests have now erupted in the streets of Wuhan. Yes, where this global saga all began. In fact, protesters have been reported as chanting, "It began in Wuhan, it ends in Wuhan." Needless to say, a massive number of security vehicles has been seen entering major cities such as Shanghai, with growing concerns of an inevitable and most likely very brutal crackdown coming around the corner. And this concern is exposing the utter hypocrisy on the left like never before. But first, gang, as you can see, the world is going insane. We got a president who's shaking hands with ghosts on the stage and a deep state that's more desperate than ever. Patriots over the centuries have always relied on the timeless value of gold and silver to protect their assets during economic storms. And that is where the amazing patriots over at Goldco come in. If you have $50,000 or more in an IRA, 401k, or savings account, you need to protect those assets from bumbling Biden's insanity with the timeless value of gold and silver. Click on that link below and talk to our good friends over at Goldco. They're patriots just like us, and they want you to succeed so much that they're offering up to $10,000 in free silver if you open up an account with them. But this is a limited time offer, so don't wait. Click on that link below or visit my special website, turleytalkslikesgold.com. Michael Tracy has pointed out how stunningly hypocritical the lamestream media is in their coverage of the protests. He tweeted out, quote, "Wave a magic wand and suddenly anti-lockdown protesters are no longer COVID deniers or conspiracy theorists when they happen to be in China." That's right. Maybe the legacy media might even start calling them, I don't know, the Freedom Convoy. And by the way, speaking of, that's exactly what blessed Canadian patriots are doing right now. Protesters in Toronto surrounded the Chinese consulate chanting, "Chinese people resist, liberty or die, down with the CCP." It's pretty impressive stuff, and it's far more than what our Hollywood elite are doing. Jack Posobiec sarcastically tweeted out, "Truly amazing to see so many celebrities and athletes supporting the brave people of China." Oh, wait, never mind. Yeah, as I'm sure you know, celebrities like LeBron James, who were so quick to excoriate and demean and criticize our nation for all of its supposed injustices, are at the same time absolutely mum when it comes to human rights abuses in China. Actually, it's quite the contrary. When James went over there to play some of his basketball, he lauded the CCP, he loved the Chinese government, the Chinese system. If I recall, when asked about the human rights abuses there, he said it was too complex a social situation for him to comment on. Well, obviously. So what big picture is going on here, and where is China going from here? Well, it's obviously very difficult at this point in time to assess where things are exactly headed, but a huge takeaway from all of this is the astonishing influence of social media and the awakening of a mass resistance against the CCP. We have to remember that communist political rule, as well as its reigning ideology, were both forged during a period in world history known as mass society. So this is a period of extraordinary industrialization and the reconfiguration of human society around big cities and municipalities. For example, here in the United States, at the beginning of the 19th century, 90% of our population lived in rural areas. At the end of that very same century, the 19th century, 90% of the population lived in cities. So we're talking a major social recalibration in the span of mere decades. And that's the world that gave us this notion of communist control, particularly over industrial forces, the hammer and sickle and the like. What's happened over the last 30 years or so, since Tiananmen Square, what's happened is that the world has begun going through another comparably radical social revolution, where we're moving away from mass society and are more and more moving towards what scholars call a network society. And what makes the network society so interesting is that precisely because it's joined together by networks like the internet, social life bypasses the old industrial, clunky, bureaucratic institutions with instantaneous digital information. It's very much like the way email and texting bypasses the old post office. And as a result, the old bureaucratic government structures can't control the flow of information the way they used to under the guise of mass society, where everything revolved around urban centers, most especially governmental bureaucratic institutions embedded in those urban centers. So Chinese citizens more and more are bypassing any and all censorship efforts launched by these old institutions. They're able to share digital information that's going viral, And that virality is inspiring potentially tens of millions to rise up against the CCP-imposed system they're living under. So where we go from here is that the CCP is going to have to, whether it likes it or not, it is going to have to adapt to this new rising network society. Because if it doesn't, they may end up like virtually all the other old, out-of-date industrial institutions and take their place on the ash heap of history. As always, make sure to smack that bell and subscribe button. And you will definitely want to check out my latest video on the media humiliated as another woke narrative blows up in their face. You're not going to want to miss this. So make sure to click on that link, and I'll see you over there. God bless.